I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thursday, October 29th, 2020, Ross Board of Education regular meeting. Mr. Kitchell, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes.
Mrs. Webb?
Here.
Mr. Bossy?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
And Mr. Chanel?
Here. If everyone can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Coughlin, would you like to review the agenda, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, we have the agenda in front of you. There is a couple personnel items for you to approve. We do have 17 policies that's recommended from the Ohio School Board Association. There's an athletic handbook to approve, and then there's some business and the treasurer reports to approve.
Okay. We'll move on to number 4, the approval of the minutes.
Motion.
Can we have a second, please?
Second.
Mrs. Webb first, Mrs. Hayes second. Mr. Kitchell, if you could call the roll.
Yes. Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes.
Mr. Bossy?
Yes.
And Mr. Chanel?
Yes.
Okay, we had no public comments emailed to us this month, right?
Correct.
Casting? Okay, we'll move on to number 6, Superintendent reports and recommendations.
Yes, Mr. President, before we begin, I just want to say thank you to, we had a very successful opening here last couple months, so thank you to the staff members, teachers, administrators. It's been a very successful opening. It's good to see that the students are back, and looking forward to a good year. On the next thread, there is a parent survey on our website. We're asking parents for incoming kindergartners. We're in the discovery phase of looking at potentially an all-day kindergarten, which would be tuition-based. So we value the impact, or we value the input from the community members. So that survey is on the website. The last thing that I have is November 19th, which is our next school board meeting. We'll have 2 presentations, one from our safety committee and one from the curriculum department. And then December 14th, which is the December meeting, we'll have an update from our athletics department. Going into next school year, or next calendar year, we'll have reports from each of the buildings. So we'll get back on that schedule.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, personnel, Mr. Castaner.
Under personnel, I have 4 items for approval, starting with a list of home instruction tutors and then schedules C, D, and E.
Can we get a motion to approve personnel, home instruction, C, D, and E? Can we get a first, please?
Motion.
Mr. Chanel, a second.
Second.
Mrs. Hayes. Mr. Kitchell, could you call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Chanel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes.
Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
And Mr. Bossy?
Yes. Go ahead, Dr. Couple.
Yes, Mr. President, we have the next 2 items, B and C, together as a block. Item B, there are 17 policies for your approval. Once again, these are recommended from the Ohio School Board Association. And then finally, item C is the athletic handbook for the 2021 school year. So B and C together is 1 vote.
Okay, can we get a motion for B and C? Can we have a first, please?
Motion.
Mrs. Webb, can we have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hayes? Mr. Kitchell, can you call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes.
Mr. Bossy?
Yes.
And Mr. Chanel?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. President, the next item is number 7, business operations. These will be A and B together as 1 vote. A is approval of payment in lieu of transportation for this school year, and item B are the approved bus stops for your approval.
Okay, can we have a motion under business operations to approve A and B? Can we have a first, please? Mrs. Webb, can we have a second? Or Mrs. Hayes, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Second, Mrs. Webb. Mr. Kitchell, could you call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes.
Mr. Bossy?
Yes.
And Mr. Chanel?
Yes.
Can go to Treasurer's Report. Mr. Kitzel?
Yeah, I'd like to block A and B. A is donations and B is investments.
Okay. And under Treasurer's Report, sections A and B, I will first. Can we get a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Chanel? So Mr. Van Winkle, Mr. Chanel? Go ahead, call roll.
Okay, Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes.
Mr. Chanel?
Yes.
Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Bossy?
Yes.
And Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
That's it, right, Judge?
What about?
You don't have to approve that. We're going to move on now to reports, and this month we have Mr. Bossy who's going to give our first report on legislative report.
Two of them, Sean, got the Southwest meeting, I want to review that
We'll just put it all together, yeah.
together.
Yeah, you can do it together.
Okay.
Yep.
The Southwest region of the School Board Association had their annual fall conference on October 8th. It was via Zoom. The fall conference emphasizes recognition of people, in contrast to the spring, which is recognizing programs, which are the best programs in the Southwest Ohio. Ross School District has been recognized for several years, for several awards over the years. When robotics was first added to the curriculum, our Lego robotic program was recognized as the best new program, and Jennifer Knoxville was there to accept the award. And then our technology programs have been on the cutting edge, and Tom O'Neill has accepted awards for 2 years as being the best program in Southwest Ohio. We also had state school board officers from Columbus give us updates on legislative activity, school funding, and just the status of the state's education efforts. During this meeting, we also paid tribute to Ron Diver, who was the director of the Southwest region for a long time, who passed away unexpectedly this past summer. Ron worked tirelessly to build the Southwest region with creative programs and memorable meetings. Eventually, the tagline was heard across other chapters in Ohio: Southwest is best. So we did earlier talk about the school board meeting. I'm wanting
The virtual.
spend time on our virtual meeting. But I would encourage you somewhere in your career to take the time to come to join one of the Southwest regional meetings. Amy was there accepting an award. I just thought of that right now. For Tom O'Neill one year, if I remember right. So but I think it's a worthy effort. It's one I identify with when you get recognition. That's one of the big concepts that I personally identify with. And then this past week, we had the opportunity to meet with Doug Yu, who is the new executive director of Ohio High School Athletic Associations, on Zoom. We reviewed the state of athletics. Very concerning. From his perspective, the issue is expenses and revenue. And big time, this is the #1 issue, expenses and revenue. Revenue has been dropping for a decade. State is considering charging to participate in state tournaments. They've experienced at the state level pay cuts from 10 to 20%, with everybody experiencing benefit reductions. They are now electing to choose venues for state tournaments by cost versus location or a noted venue. They got luckier than heck by having the Lindner family in Cincinnati donate the Lindner Family Tennis Center for the state tennis tournament, which saved them a lot of money because they didn't pay anything. And then they are also going to be heavily skewing tournaments to Dayton area, because Dayton expenses are about 40% less than Columbus. So that's some of the examples he shared with us to solve this expenses and revenue issue that is not going to go away, he said, in a short time period. He also made comment, again disturbingly, that EMIS numbers, he says that the state does not trust these numbers. So therefore they're not going to change the rankings based on the typical 2-year cycle. They're going to let another year go by and then make it a 3-year cycle. So these are some revelations I'm sitting there saying, what did I get myself into here? And then he did make the comment that the lieutenant governor is considering canceling wrestling this year, using the analogy of 3 minutes of face-to-face combat 3 times in a match, but yet then they are not allowed to shake hands at the end of the match because of the potential of passing COVID. So I'm just shaking my head here, what he's saying. And then it was brought up about potential swimming, is looking for expert medical advice, and basically a comment was made that chlorine does not kill COVID. So he asked the question, do we cancel it? I'm going, holy mackerel, what are you talking about? He did make a positive comment that schools are doing a fine job with masks, and he then put the big caution. He says administrators need to provide the emphasis, not the workers at a gathering. Administrators need to provide safety leadership and all the feeder programs within your community. So that's a challenge to us as we move forward into another season, the winter season. So I didn't know what I got myself into on that one there, but I surely wasn't going to ask any questions. I know there's a couple of them I would like to have asked. Leave it at that. So that's the Southwest meeting. From the legislative perspective, there are a large number of bills in the House and the Senate committees. I mean, it's overwhelming. Just in the area of gun control, there's over 30 bills that are out there, banning around in the House and the Senate. Sean passed on a list, a lengthy list. Chad passed on a lengthy list. In my opinion, from being responsible for working with the legislators, there are 2 major ones that merit involvement, and better yet, action. The new funding formula for 2021-22 is on the horizon, and the issue is basically twofold. The total number of dollars that the state's going to allocate toward education, and then how can Ross be treated fairly? Fairly is in our eyes, not in Hamilton's eyes, Northwest eyes, City of Cincinnati's eyes. We're basically a small rural district with no business industry contributions, and we don't have a lot of lobbying power. And so the money, the big people, they're going to go after the money. The formula, they're trying to create a new formula on how to allocate by type of district. And it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to have to be a collaboration of small rural districts getting together and trying to put some muscle on legislative people. Just because we say, we're the only small rural district in southwest Ohio, in this part of the country here. Other districts like Talawanda have bigger issues and bigger lobbying power. And they're going to get what they want. And so that's a big concern of mine, of what actions we can take to be part of this new funding formula. And I'm glad we're going with a new formula, because the old one did not allow us to get what I call our fair share. The other major issue that needs to have action to it is the Ed Choice. Ed Choice schools were going to be announced first of the year. And we've got some schools with some suspect test scores that, without dropping names here, we could be funding scholarships through the high school years of a student who wants to move on from Ross to a private school. Because of Ed Choice, we get identified as Ed Choice. There's no turning back. From that point on, that student moves to a private school. We're liable for $4,800 a year all the way through that high school career. And you talk about messing up a budget. That could just mess our budget up unbelievable. So my concern is just to sit and pray and hope and put your catcher's equipment on and catch whatever's thrown at us. We got to have some action to help that Ed Choice decision, which I think is going to be made in early February. So we should come back to those two topics at another time, but I'd like to figure out an action plan on it versus just reporting. We do a lot of reporting, but we need some action.
So, I typed this out for the Butler Tech report, but just want to talk to you about it for a second. So we had, at Butler Tech, Dr. Sage talked to us about the exact thing you just talked about. And how House Bill 305 is going to be the proposed new school funding, but it's going to be 100% tied with House Bill 478, which is school vouchers. So, to your point, it could look real ugly for us. It really could.
We're good.
Yeah, but if that's the way it goes, and she said, and she's really good, Amy can vouch for her, that by the end of December, going into the new year, that they could have this thing all put together. So.
There's a lot of backroom meetings.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of backroom meetings.
Yeah, she's a heavy hitter, so she's up here talking a lot, but to your point, I was going to say that came out of the Butler Tech meeting that I thought was Ross worthy from Butler Tech perspective, was those two things. Anybody else have anything for Mr. Boston? Okay, we'll move on to the Butler Tech report. I emailed you guys the newsletter that comes out. It should be in an email now, your email box. Student Success newsletter. It's great. There's a lot of neat things in there every month. They take a lot of pride with that newsletter. The one thing I want to hit on for just a minute is the student showcases, and you guys received those boxes. So for the people that may be listening, each board member at all 11 districts and upper administration received a box for the student showcases to go virtual this year instead of at Butler Tech. Usually you would go there for all the board members, have dinner, and then go watch the showcases. So thinking outside the box like Butler Tech does, they brought the showcase to us. So now we were able to, it's like a playbill format where you can go on and look at each one. I'm sure you guys have went through all of them already, right, Mr. Chanel? But I have went through 2 or 3. They just started today, I think. But they're going to run for a few days, and they're having a competition with each board on who watches the most, and then mail it back to Butler Tech. Now, one of the most impressive things was the culinary arts students. They sent some goodies in the boxes, a s'mores brownie that didn't even make it past. My daughter had the thing gone before I even looked at it. It's just amazing how Butler Tech just thinks outside the box, and they were delivered. So it's a competition. So if you guys get a chance to watch it, stick it in and mail it away, that'd be great. The other thing in the Butler Tech board meeting was we had the results of the board does a survey every year on their effectiveness, and the tool is to evaluate the board as a whole and each member individually. And it was real interesting the survey, but I'll share that with you guys so you can look at it. But it's the board's always probably going to rank themselves good, so it's been pretty steady for a while, but it's really neat to see. It supports what the vision is of Butler Tech, and that's the main thing. The strategic plan that Mr. Graff and everybody has, it's tied into that to where the board is making sure they're supporting the things that they're trying to do. So it was really good. And then the last thing I already talked about, which is House Bill 305 and House Bill 478, is Ross worthy because we're going to be affected by that for sure. Anybody have any questions on Butler Tech? Nope. Okay. We'll move around to final board comments. We'll start with you, Mr. Bossy. Go ahead.
Okay. I can't say enough about how thrilled I am, pleased I am that we're open 5 days a week. And I don't know how many weeks we're into it. I am monitoring the numbers of the virus as well as the quarantines, and we got to watch that, we got to work on that, because I don't want us to be not open 5 days a week, like some other school districts are shutting up and closing up. I'm tickled pink we're open. Job well done, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Move on. I would like, because I had the opportunity to call out one of our volunteer type programs that came out of the technology department, and that's the G Foods. And I had the opportunity over the years, the last couple of years, to get to work with and know particularly Levi Grimm, who is he's a leader. Had the opportunity to go through a visual learning process over the weekend with Levi and two of the ladies that he's got coming up. They look like they're going to be just as strong. And they talked about it was all put on by Miami University, and about food for the needy, and the services that are available out there that this particular program, G Food, provides. They are very active over in our over here in the cafeteria here below us, working weekends. They were here all summer, all fall in our cafeteria, using that facility for processing foods for the needy. I have no idea where they came up with semis were pulled behind the school here full of fresh produce. They had a student driving a fork truck unloading these semis, putting it there behind the back wall, and then they break these big crates down into smaller portions. I don't know where they got the milk from, but they got milk tools, and then breaking it up and having other delivery trucks come through here, service trucks, and load these other trucks up with food as well as milk, and then to be distributed to other agencies in the Southwest Ohio. What a brokering job! It's amazing. It is amazing. So, and Levi's presentation that day was first class. I'm kind of glad I got lucky and caught it. And their impact right now is 100 miles radius from Ross High School. 100-mile radius. And they have over 1 million pounds of food that they have handled here this year here. 1 million pounds. It'd be worthy. I get a kick out of it to have him, we give respect to our principals, have him come and do a presentation. It's just enlightening, as well as makes you feel good about our school. And it's a well-kept secret. Not many people know this. Not many people know what's going on here. It's amazing. And so I'd like to suggest we do that here in weeks and months to come. Thank you, Brett. Carly?
Okay, Mr. Schnell?
I'll be brief, and maybe a little bit repetitive, but I think it deserves to be said again. Extremely proud of our students, our staff, our administration, to be 2 months into this thing. I think it says a lot that there are some area schools that are kind of following our lead and getting back into schools for 5 days a week. I think they look at us and see that it can be done. Really proud of our student athletes. I lost count, but how many SWAC championship programs we had this fall, and Jake's updates that he sent out, and just with all the challenges going on, and still be able to focus and succeed in that area too. I think it's really impressive. So that's all I have.
Mrs. Hayes?
You stole my thunder. Go on third. I just want to say thank you to our district for their continued hard work as we return to school. And as we move on to second quarter on November 6th, keep up the good work and stay safe. Also, congrats to our fall teams and coaches for their very impressive accomplishments this season. And I'm very much looking forward to our winter season. So, best of luck.
Okay, Mrs. Webb?
Pretty much the same thing both of them just said, and Mr. Bossy as well. We're 2 months into the school year, and things seem to be going pretty well. And I just appreciate everybody's cooperation, communication, students, staff, district level, building level, administration. Just thank you for all of your hard work. And I'm not going to steal Mr. Van Winkle's thunder with athletics, but I do want to congratulate the fall teams too.
Thank you. Congratulations, obviously, to the fall teams with league championships, coaches of the year, players of the years. Probably one of the most important things is we got a nice lead in the All-Sports Trophy coming out of the fall, and we haven't won the All-Sports Trophy since 2015. So that's having that lead coming out of the fall is very important. Good luck to all the winter sports are getting ready to start up as well. Also to the public, just want to make sure that we announce that we've made some modifications in our board schedules for November and December, and those will be updated on the webpage as well. And then the last thing is our teachers and staff. Just want to thank them because they went through a lot, and to bounce back and see these kids smiling and everything else, I think is a true testament to our staff and our teachers. And they're going through a modified schedule this year where there's a little bit less time off and so on and so forth. So we just really want to thank them as well. We are going to go in executive session tonight for personnel reasons with no action to follow. So with that being said, can I have a motion to go in executive session, please?
Motion.
Mrs. Webb, a second. Mrs. Hayes? Mr. Kitzel, can you call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes.
Mr. Bossy?
Yes.
And Mr. Chanel?